Rowena Dooley, asking Sol citizens to report for duty. Rowena Dooley, asking Sol citizens to report for duty.
ArcCorp Tower. This is commercial vessel Calypso requesting EDL assistance.
Thank you for contacting Landing Control. Entry, descent, and landing procedure initiated. Assuming navigational control. Entering atmosphere. Descent vector in preparation for final approach. Stand by. Live over commercial district C. Area 18. ArcCorp. Landing complete. Thank you for using Pentatech EDL Assist. Enjoy your stay on ArcCorp.
Next. Stand by, starting scan. By entering Area 18, you agree to abide by all laws and regulations set by ArcCorp and the UEE. Any violation will result in immediate prosecution. You're clear to go. Please exit the checkpoint.
And greetings. Welcome back to the Soul Citizens. I'm GriffinGamingRPG, and we're back. Today is August the 20th, and I'm joined today by my good friend, JadeStarwatcher. Jade, how are you?
I am good. As you can see behind me, I got Area 18, so yeah, I'm good.
I see you made a special occasion to make a trip to Area 18 just for this show, so it's pretty cool.
All the way from Levski, but I have to represent, so that's why I got the uniform on.
Oh, okay, awesome. I'm digging it. I love that. Oh, wow. Thank you for the sub. Jade, I know this video was a throwback, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that was like before my time, but I saw it after, I backed. But, yeah, those graphics.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, those graphics, right? Well, let me tell you, because I was there, right? And one of the reasons why we showed you guys that video was because this was our first introduction to ArcCorp. And as you could see, there are some elements that have carried over to this day, like the artwork in the center of Area 18. And some of the structure design is there, but you could also see that back then it was very reminiscent of, for people who are into Star Wars, we saw it as Coruscant more than anything else, especially with all the air traffic flying, which I miss, Jade.
Yeah.
Right? I missed that.
They need to bring that back.
Yes.
Like, in some form.
Yeah, even though it was just graphics, it gave the feeling of something going on in the city, in the skies above it. And that was something that, first time you go in, and one of the reasons why you saw a lot of panning and looking around was this was a part of, as you saw, the CitizenCon 2014 presentation. And I remember Well, there's a lot of elements we could talk about, Jade, here. And I know
Yeah.
we're focusing in on ArcCorp more than anything, but one of the biggest things that this demonstration moved beyond within a year of this, or I think it was a year or two of this, was when you saw this open up with the Connie arriving at ArcCorp. And back then, you arrived, and what you were supposed, we've talked about this before, what you're supposed to do is basically say, hey, I'd like to get landing permission. And then the EDL assist would come in and say, okay, you're clear to land, but you didn't do anything. Once you did that, it was like an automated cinematic of you being brought in, by computers, right? And you just had to sit back and relax, and you flew into the city and you would land. And then you as the player at that point would get up and walk around and do what you want to do. If you noticed, it was very cinematic. There were external shots, there were internal shots, and that was the way it was supposed to go. But as you know, Jade, a little later, all of that changed, right? We got this thing of being able to control our own ships and fly where we wanted to fly, which is a big change.
Yeah, and I think that was a change probably that's more in line with what Chris Roberts would have wanted. Like that automatic landing thing. It's almost like it almost had the feeling of a cutscene to me.
Which is what it was. Which is exactly what it was. This was, and to your point, Chris had said that one day we will get there where we'd be able to fly down, but it was not expected to happen within the next couple of years. It was one of those things that was just on the list. Eventually we'll get there. But here's the cool part, Jade. We were excited still. You know what I mean? We didn't feel like we lost anything. We're like, oh, this is great. Coming in this landing sequence is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you could see how there was, like I said, some things that, like we saw customs in there, right? Which we haven't seen activated yet, but there you get an idea of what customs was supposed to be. Like you couldn't carry weapons into the city. You'd have to check them in before you go in. And so when we finally did get our outside of the social module version of ArcCorp, we kind of understood where they were trying to go with all that stuff. It wasn't just cosmetics, that there is some purpose. Yeah,
and every landing zone has that customs check.
Yep.
So it's something that, that's one of those future things.
Yep.
Probably from when they removed the armistice zones.
Yep, absolutely. Even Levski, right? When you come in Levski, they've got a customs check in when you come in there. Right.
You got to respect the local authority.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's give some shout outs here. Thrakazogs, thank you for that gift sub. To Jade, Big Black Gaming, BBG, good to see you. Thank you for your resub. And also Abyssian, thank you as always for your sub as well. We appreciate you guys being here. Before we jump into this, our show today, as you can see, is entitled ArcCorp System Tour. This is a part of our System Tour series. We began it last month with Hurston, and we're basically going in the order of how the different systems or the different planets and moons were issued out by CIG. And so this week or this month, we are doing ArcCorp. And so Jade and I are going to kind of take you guys through a little journey, give you some interesting stuff about lore, maybe some things you didn't know. I saw a couple people in chat said they had never seen that video that we just looked at, for example. We're going to try to expose you to all the cool stuff out there about ArcCorp. ArcCorp is my home. That's one of my homes. For my main, it's my home. I know, Jade, you Levski love. I get it. I get it.
You and DK, I think you like, Area 18 at ArcCorp because it's kind of like Chicago.
I don't know if it's because it's like Chicago. To be honest with you, it's kind of weird, Jade, to be honest with you, because when we got Hurston at first, Hurston kind of had a Blade Runner feel, because this is before we had ArcCorp, because the music and stuff kind of reminded me of it a little bit more. It's a little bit more esoteric music there. But ArcCorp, once that came out with the holographic, big, tall advertisements in the fizz can, that definitely looked more like Blade Runner. But I actually liked ArcCorp because I liked the lore better there. They're not as bad as Hurston. Right. They're not as good as Orison and Microtech maybe, but because ArcCorp's kind of got treacherous stuff going on too, by the way, y'all. It's not like heaven at ArcCorp either. But I preferred them over Hurston a little bit more. And even though Hurston's great because technically it's centrally located within the system to get to everything, I was willing to take the hit and stay at ArcCorp better. Not to mention, my woman lives there too, so I have to go there.
For of course. Well, right? We'll talk about her in a little bit later.
Exactly.
Yeah. But ArcCorp and Hurston are often tied for the worst corporation in the universe. Just so people know, it like you said, it isn't, it isn't all
It's not all roses. Yeah.
not all roses and cyberpunk vibes.
Exactly.
But yeah.
That's a good analogy. We're gonna look at lore makers because lore makers will break down some stuff maybe that you guys didn't know about ArcCorp. But before we get to that, let's jump into cover our beginning things here. First off, you guys know that we've been doing our fundraiser for St. Jude Children's Hospital, and we are doing that all the way until October 22nd, the culmination of CitizenCon. And you guys have been amazing. You have helped us reach our third goal, our third tier. We were at 500 and 1,000. Last week we reached 2,000. Now here comes the next big challenge, and that's going to be the $3,000 mark. Why is that a big challenge? It's not a challenge for you because we know you guys can drop $1,000 just like that, right? The challenge is going to be for us because if you guys drop another $1,000, we are obligated to do a 12-hour live stream. You hear that, Jade? So get ready to pick your hour. 12 of us, be ready. 12-hour live stream, okay?
Right.
So we're going to do,
I'll be there.
You'll be ready? All right, so we're going to do a 12-hour live stream, and we're going to have guests come in and hang out with us. And no hot tub streams, guys. No hot tub streams. But we are going to do a 12-hour stream. We're going to do some giveaways. We have an angel donor who's giving us some very cool stuff to give away. And we are just really excited about this upcoming $3,000 tier mark, and you guys can help us get there. So we are currently at 2,000, if I'm reading that correctly with my bad eyesight, $45. That means we have another $955 over the next couple of weeks. We want to hit that $3,000 mark by the end of August. I'm going to be ambitious, Jade. End of August. All right? Because then you think we can do it? Because I think if we do that, this is my plan.
Yeah.
If we hit 3,000 at the end of this month, or even like the first week of next month, then in September, and we do that 12-hour thing, we'll hit that $5,000 with no problems. And then after that, we got to put the push in. We got to put the push in for the next 30 days to get to that $10,000 mark. So I know you guys are going to make it happen. If you've given already, we appreciate you. If you haven't given and you don't have it, that's okay. But tell somebody, give them the link. Tell them, hey, this is a good cause. Maybe you're not a Star citizen, but you definitely know about St. Jude Children's Hospital. Send them the link for it. There's a QR code that pops up. Go on our Twitter. That's there too. You can get it from there and send it to people. And believe it or not, people will give. You don't have to twist a lot of people's arms because people get it when it comes to children and cancer. So we really want to encourage you guys for that. Okay. Jade, let me tell you about what else happened before we get into ArcCorp.
All right.
On yesterday. Let's see if it changes. There we go. Yesterday was the Chicago Bar Citizen, and Maiden Ariana was the host this time around. And we had a great group of folks there. Some folks that you see there in that picture, there's some folks who weren't, they left because we took this toward the end of the event. But there were about 45 people that came out yesterday. And it was a really, really, really nice time. Some of the people were the people that were here at the November one when CIG came. And then we had some new faces that popped up this time as well. And as you know, Soul Citizens was represented. We were there helping out with what we could with Maiden Ariana. She had some giveaways. She gave away she gave away two original oil paintings that were done, that were signed, and all the authenticity stuff to them. And then she gave away a Drake Cutter. She gave away a vulture, a mole, and I don't know, DK's in chat. DK, maybe you remember what the other item was. I can't remember what the fourth ship was. But they were all like, each one was different. It was very, very cool, the stuff that they gave away. Oh, it was a nomad. Okay. Yeah, it was a nomad. So a couple of points of interest here that I want to show folks, okay? One of them is, there we go. There's DK hanging out with me. He's got his Soul Citizen shirt on and showing off those muscular, sporty legs of his. Across from him is Maiden Ariana. And next to him is a buddy I met. He's here, in fact, today. Yogurt, I saw you were here. I met, well, I won't say his real name, but I met him yesterday, and I gave him a shout out in the tweet of this morning when I got up. But Dropped Yogurt came, and he drove down from Milwaukee. And let me tell you how dedicated this guy is, Jade. He's been in the game for 1 year. Mm-hmm. He and his buddy came down on Friday, thinking the event was on Friday, and found out it was Saturday. And he came back Saturday and hung out all day. So he had a real good time. It was a really great time talking with him. We were there for I was there for 3.5 hours yesterday. And I finally had to get out of it because I had a long day. Also sitting at the table with us was a gentleman. I had never met this guy before, Yesh, on the left there, and had a let me tell you what the conversation with him was, Jay, because this is what you'll appreciate. He is an OG backer. He beats out, either he beats Unique or he's been around as long as Unique. because he was
Whoa.
around during golden ticket time, which meant that he
Okay.
was there before October when everything closed down. He was there before they went to Gamescom and Chris made the announcement. Okay. But here's the thing that I think you'll appreciate that he had on him. And I was like, ooh, can I see that? You recognize that?
That's the black card.
That's the black card. All right, y'all. I know it's reflecting. That ain't that silver card the GSCIG put out. That is a real official. And you can see on it, it says Founders. That is an original black card. You don't see those very often. And he has definitely held on to his and kept it in pristine condition. And we had a real good time just talking about the progress of the game, going through it all these years. How are we managing it? How are we handling it? Things we're anticipating, things we're excited about. So I want to give out a shout to Yesh. I want to give a shout out to Dropped Yogurt. I want to give a shout out to who else was there yesterday? Mike. I got a chance to talk with Mike. And last but not least, Ken. Ken was a really sweet guy, really nice guy. Came up to me as soon as I walked in the door. He's like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "Oh my God." That's how I felt because he recognized me, you know, but he was such a nice guy. And he wanted me to tell people about, I'm just hanging out. And he's like, "You need to tell people about Soul Citizens, blah, blah, blah." He was really just a sweet guy. So he was really, really nice and very encouraging to what we do. And we had a lot of people who said some really encouraging things, but yesterday was a really, really great day. So once again, to Maiden Ariana, thank you. You guys, please make sure that you guys, do Bar Citizens, go to one. And if you don't have one in your area, organize one. You'd be amazed at people who would be interested to come out. I've gone to Bar Citizens where I've been there and there's just been 3 people. I've been to Bar Citizens when there have been 150 people. And no matter which one I go to, never feels like wasted time. Always a lot of fun. So really want to encourage you guys to connect with the community as much as you possibly can. Okay. All right. That's all of my superficial stuff or my, stuff that has nothing to do with ArcCorp, Jade. So you ready to jump into it?
Absolutely.
Okie dokie. We showed you guys that opening video. Hopefully it didn't scare you, but hopefully it did let you see how much ArcCorp has, what's the word we want to use, Jade? Evolved, changed, expanded.
And it'll evolve even more.
It will evolve even more.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of history, and then we're going to watch a little bit of Lore Makers. And if you guys want to know what it is, we'll put the link in for you, but it's the Lore Makers that was on Stanton. And they do talk about each one of the planets. But I really want you to hear what they have to say about lore. It's easier than me and Jade spitting it out, but I think there'll be some stuff that you'll find very interesting about that. So before we do that, let's go ahead and read this very first long blurb that we have here about Stanton. Jay, why don't you take that first part? I'll take the second part.
Absolutely. So ArcCorp Stanton 3 is a super Earth and the Stanton system owned and terraformed by the ArcCorp Corporation. In just 80 years, all of the terrain of the planet has been sculpted, zoned, and built upon, leaving very little left for nature. The third planet in Stanton carries an ironic distinction with it because the planet was sold to fund the synth world, yet it's been transformed into, at least on the surface, a synthetic world. And they're taking a page out of the Xi'an approach to geo-planning. ArcCorp sculpted, zoned, and built upon the primary land masses to maximize their earning potential. And they will rent an office, factory, or production space to anyone with the credits to pay.
And even though an overwhelming portion of the planet is covered in unending sprawl, there are only a handful of areas travelers are allowed to land. Of those, one has become the most trafficked. The planet is the single most industrialized world in human space. It consists of a layer after layer of factory, so many that today building additional structures is actually impossible. New facilities are built on top of existing ones. The ArcCorp's official headquarters is located here in the massive ArcCorp Tower that rises above all other parts of the factory world. Jay, do me a favor and talk a little bit about, a lot of times people, like I said, when they think of ArcCorp, if they're a Star Wars fan, sometimes their mind automatically drifts to Coruscant, which literally is completely surrounded in nothing but structure and buildings. But ArcCorp isn't necessarily 100% buildings, right? There is some natural biomes and things. Why don't you tell people about that? Because maybe they don't know it.
Right. So originally when they were, putting together the lore for ArcCorp, it was going to be Coruscant. But as in the Lore Makers, they had consulted with astrophysicist, and they, kind of said, hey, look, if you want to have like weather, and things like that, it's going to probably not really, fit, right?
Yeah.
And so they scaled it back to, being more sensible. So you notice from what was just read by Griff, they're talking about the land masses, right? And ArcCorp will have oceans. We were even shown way back, I think it was 2017 or 2018. It was 2018. A picture of an eclipse over, quote, ArcCorp, but you could see mountains, you could see the cities, but you could also see mountains in the distance. So, not every part of ArcCorp has been built out upon. So I assume we'll have some wilderness areas and definitely the oceans.
Yeah.
They've I'm not just assuming or saying, I'm hoping this is something that both the planetary tech team, level design, and the narrative team have all answered questions on, most of the time for me, on the various Friday shows throughout the years, like Star Citizen Live, and before that, Reverse the Verse. Yeah.
No, that's good stuff. Thanks for sharing that. And I think that's another thing too. A lot of people never really knew that ArcCorp is actually a terraformed world. That's another factor. Some of you guys have seen movies like, what was the movie with, was it Total Recall? Where there's a planet where the oxygen and stuff is actually being produced by machines, right? Remember, there was a big thing about the machines pumping oxygen into certain parts of the cities. And so, and you're right, biologically, you got all mechanical, or, all planets is nothing but buildings. You're going to, well, you can forget about weather, basically.
Yeah, you can forget about having the atmosphere, because there's going to be a lot of things.
Clouds aren't going to be there. There's a whole lot of stuff that you got issues with. So if you want to have some type of ecological biome, there needs to be something. So I'm glad to hear that personally. I like the fact that they've got the different areas that are these mega monolith type of industrialized areas. But I'll be honest with you, I'm hoping that they do have these areas that you can go to that have natural something to them. Like you said, mountains or ranges or whatever. I don't want any deserts necessarily, but I would like to have some places that you can go that justify oxygen and things like that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, could you imagine taking like an elevator down through the levels to a beach near Area 18, and you look up and all you see above you is like city. Yeah. But then when you look out to the, to the ocean, you see city, but it's way in the distance. You just see like, through the haze and everything. It would be a very epic view.
I'm curious if CIG is going to do something that connects the different areas. You know what I'm saying? A speed tram, something that takes you through. So it's not a matter of always flying, but if you're a resident, you could just get on this special tram that goes from area 6 to area 17. I think that would be cool too. First of all, the economy of it too, because flying your ship every time somewhere, if you don't need to.
There's no reason why the existing city flight transit couldn't take you to those places. Yeah. I think that might even be why they made them sky buses and not a train on rails, because it's easier to go up and down those layers.
Absolutely.
Plus it's really sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool. Got a cool factor to it. So I hope they do that. Okay, well, listen, that gives us our intro into this thing about ArcCorp. We're going to get ready to show you guys now this video that is a section from Lore Maker's Guide to the Galaxy on Stanton. And then we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then we're going to start talking about the planet type and some other things. Okay, so here we go. Check it out.
Next, we have ArcCorp. And so ArcCorp is an interesting one. There's another planet that sort of went through some changes. The original, pitch for it was that sort of Coruscant type planet where it's like just one massive megacity type thing, but we sort of walked that back a bit. It was initially described as like every square inch of it had been developed and stuff like that, but now we're sort of sticking it to land masses because there's sort of sciencey stuff that like weather and stuff like that would be affected by everything being basically a city. Anyway, but still got the same vibe, and it's the thing I really love about it. It's got that almost cyberpunky urban megacity type feel to it, which is really, really cool. But ArcCorp as a company is basically, like I mentioned earlier, it's just a conglomerate. It's just a megacorp in sort of the truest definition of the word that just absorbs other companies. It is the blob. I'll say it again. But like, if you've ever done research in sort of like massive corporations in the real world, and you see sort of like, oh, this one company owns these 150 different products and stuff like that, it can be it's very weird. And that was the type of thing that we were sort of going for with them, was that their sort of business is absorbing other businesses. In keeping with that mentality, that's why they sort of turned this planet into a massive business and production park. They probably provide incentives and stuff like that to try and lure companies to sort of base their operations out of here and stuff like that. One of the ideas was that in its construction, or when they were sort of initially assessing the planet and starting to plan out how they were going to build on it, that they had been inspired by the Xi'an factory worlds, which were sort of this idea that the Xi'an designate worlds for function. Like they've gotten to the point where they're like, this planet is going to be a production world, and this planet is going to be an agricultural world, and stuff, and they stick to it. Like, it's not a mishmash. They will just zone planets to serve specific functions. And so that was sort of the idea with this, was that maybe that the creators who were building it were sort of inspired by that idea of, like, they wanted to make a business world. The more cynical people tend to believe that the reason why they're doing it is not out of some interesting alien sort of environmental theory approach, but actually that they're just using it as a way to bring companies in so they can keep an eye on them and figure out if there's somebody that they would like to absorb. So it's one of the two. So a little background of actually ArcCorp itself. The company itself actually started out as an exploration consortium back in the 27th century, which is pretty awesome. And after several sort of failed ventures, they ended up using the sort of remaining assets to transition into acquiring mining rights for recently discovered planets. And that actually turned out to be sort of the smart move, and became much more profitable, and positioned them to basically absorb their first company, which was a terraforming outfit that they had been working with called BCK. And so from there, they basically became a mining / terraforming consortium, and now you're talking huge money. And but it was actually once they snagged a company called Novalight that developed fusion engines, that's what's the thing that basically they actually became known for, was the development of these sort of massive industrial fusion engines.
Okay. That's giving us some background there. The thing that caught me off guard, Jade, on this, and you read this stuff years ago and then it comes back up and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot that there was this feeling that ArcCorp was basically just to be this big conglomerate that just swallowed up every company, possible, right? I mean, there is a side that, everybody can have their feelings about this, and I don't want to go too deep in this, but Jade, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Science fiction has, in many times, often through telling of a story or creating certain worlds, tried to deliver a message that mirrors what happens in real life, right? And Star Trek was notorious for that. They'd come up with stories that were out in space about something, but maybe it had something to do with the civil rights movement, or it had something to do with equality or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And here, on that corporate capitalism side of it, we still see that 900 years in the future, that there is still this dynamic of big companies having tremendous power over the little guy, right? Whether it's Hurston, ArcCorp, or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you look at that, and it's basically scaled up.
Very happy to be here.
Whoa.
Drop
Thank
Joker.
you.
Thank you for the follow.
But yeah, it's a scaled up, version of a lot of, what's in the world now, and it's extrapolated out 930 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on the whole greed is good,
Mm-hmm.
laissez-faire capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
absorb everything you can because you can.
Right, because you can. Yeah. And I sometimes I wonder when we look at science fiction, And when those messages are there, I'm often wondering when I finally realize that, oh, they're saying so, because some people would say, oh, you're trying to preach, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they look at it as a negative, right? Yo, thank you so much for that raid. Party of
Yeah.
15. Thank you, yo. Good to see you. And by the way, great. I didn't know you were going to be, I did know, but I forgot. You were on Yacht Club last week, so I got to go back and watch the episode. I'm sure you did a great job. And thank you, Yo-Yo Meggers. I don't know what Yo-Yo calls for folks that come over, but thank you guys for coming over.
Wow.
Appreciate that. T-shirt guy. Thank you for that follow. Thank you. But yeah, I'm always curious whether or not, people see the messages. It doesn't mean you got to change your life, but does it challenge people to think about things? You know what I mean? So yeah, ArcCorp and Hurston are definitely a bit on the oppressive side. They also talked about it being dangerous, right? Yeah. The dark alleys of ArcCorp, and there's black market stuff and whatnot that's supposed to be a part of going into ArcCorp as well. There was a video I didn't get to pull, Jade. It was from 2019. It was the Kruger Jax video. And in that video, I don't know how come this didn't click with me when I watched it then. But in that video, Jax is talking and he says, Jimmy is going to go get this ice cream cone. And I'm going to test out this P-72 to see if I can fly to Area 6 and go to this creamery and get back before he gets out of line. And you literally see Jax go there. And now I'm going to go to Area 6 now because I want to see if that creamery is there. Do you know if it's there?
Yeah, well, I've been to Area 6 and I've not found
looked around because you know that the painting is in the game from the with the Redeemer, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm curious if that creamery is in there.
If it is, you know what? If maybe CID has said that they've hid Easter eggs.
Right.
There's a bunch we haven't found yet.
Right.
So maybe it is there.
Yeah.
It's another reason to go back to
there you go.
If you don't go.
There you go. I'm gonna have to go on a hunt. Maybe we'll do that on one of our Saturday night things. We'll just all go out there.
Hunt for the creamery.
Fly around Area 6 and see if we can find the creamery.
Yeah.
So we'll take a Dark Knight says he's in there now. He's gonna start looking. He's gonna start looking now. Okay. Jade, I'm gonna leave this next section to you because this is your area here. And this is talking about the planet type of what ArcCorp is. So why don't you go ahead and read that and then elaborate on it.
Yep, I will do that. So ArcCorp is a super Earth, and super Earth is an extrasolar planet that's got mass higher than Earth's, but substantially below those of Solar System's ice giants like Uranus, Neptune, which are 14.5 and 17 times the Earth's mass respectively. And so I would say that, you start super Earths around 2.4 Earth masses, and you go up to 10. But there's probably a transition between like Earth-like planets and super Earths, more like 3 to 10 Earth masses, and we don't have any planets like that in our solar system that we know of for a fact, although Planet 9 would fit in the category of a super Earth, possibly. It's in that, it would be that boundary between like a ice giant and a super Earth. Because there's not like a hard, fast boundary between these things, but we have categories, boxes. We have to put things in boxes, right?
Right.
So we can, understand them better. So super Earths are, obviously they're more massive. And they are and this may be because of the way that we search for planets, but they appear to be one of the most common types of planets in the universe. So it's kind of interesting that our solar system doesn't have a super Earth that we absolutely know of. And if there's anything else you'd like me to go on about the super Earth.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. There's something else that you think is relevant, or even something in relation to the game, even. Sure, go ahead.
I can give you examples. So like in real life, there's a whole list of potentially habitable planets. And quite a few of those are super Earths, but we just don't know. We haven't gone there. We haven't been able to categorize their atmospheres. But one of the characteristics of super Earths that's thought to possibly be a thing is that some of them wouldn't have lost their hydrogen helium atmospheres. So that would explain why a company like ArcCorp would have to come in and terraform it, right? Because with more mass, they might have retained hydrogen helium atmosphere.
Let me ask you a question about terraforming real quick before we move on. I mean, scientifically, and guys, mind you, I'm asking Jade this not because it's her hobby. I mean, she has a career and education and background in these areas. Is terraforming? I'm not saying is it practical. I'm saying have scientists ever said like what it would take to terraform? Because like I'm using a movie now. In Aliens, it took them like something like 80 years. It was a long time. Once they set up things to terraform, it took a long time to bring the atmosphere levels to certain places and everything else. Is that a real thing? Is it just theoretical? Is it something that
It's an engineering problem, not a scientific problem. It's not like trying to make a workable lightsaber. Let's put it that way. So and depending on the planet, there would be different techniques to terraform it. It depends on what you have to do, right?
Okay.
So like terraforming Mars will be very different than terraforming Venus because they're very different planets, right? Right. There would not be a one size fits all terraforming solution.
Right.
It would be a set of technologies and set of techniques, anything from crashing comets into a planet to, putting potential fossil fuel burning things on a planet to give it a thicker atmosphere that then can keep heat in, like wanting to create a greenhouse effect. Would be a form of terraforming, as well as getting rid of a hydrogen helium atmosphere, and maybe seeding it with cyanobacteria or something that could start producing oxygen and things. Like there's a whole list of things from biology, the chemistry, to physics itself that would be involved with terraforming. And so we can imagine these things, but obviously we're not living on other planets yet, so they're still in the realm of science fiction because we haven't done it yet.
Gotcha.
But it's not impossible. Now, with ArcCorp, it's like 80 years, right? That, and I would assume whatever they're doing would have sped up that process. When we talk about terraforming IRL, you're talking like 1,000 years minimum. You're not talking, you're not talking
device,
next month,
be a
next
boom and
year,
it's done. Yep, I
or
get
next
you.
century even. You're talking, you're talking a millennia at least.
Yeah, and even something as simple as the scale of the planet or the moon, huge factor. This is a planetary body. It's not a moon. It's I can't even imagine how long it would take, let alone for everything else to evolve naturally. I was just asking because I was just kind of curious how theoretical it was. Really, it sounds good.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and we don't really know what it would take to terraform a super Earth because we're still learning a lot about super Earth. So they're shrouded in mystery, and James Webb is helping to peel back that shroud a little bit.
Okay. Pramster, thank you for that sub. Appreciate you. 16 months. Thank you as always. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into this next segment then. Let's turn that off and go here. This is just some brief history stuff here for you all about ArcCorp. The world was occupied and claimed by the United Empire of Earth in the 29th century, along with the rest of the Stanton system, from the existing inhabitants. In 2865, it was sold to the company. Unlike other corporate planets, ArcCorp decided to partition off the planet into smaller lots rather than reserve it for future development. Other companies, always non-competitors, sprung up rapidly around the globe at a speed never before seen until the orb reached its current state. This goes back into what we saw Big Red Twist during the Lore Makers, that the ArcCorp basically compelled or drew in other companies to reside there, whether it was because of convenience or whether it was because, as was mentioned in the Lore Makers episode, they were doing it to keep an eye on them. There was some motivations for why these corporations, I think this is over 150 companies that were there, something like that. It was some crazy number that reside there. And that's their thing. They basically are a monolithic company that swallows up smaller companies and puts them all under the umbrella of ArcCorp. And Jade, it was the thing that they're known for, creating these engines, right? Was it ion engines, or I forget what they said, what type of engines it was?
Yeah, no, it was antimatter.
Was it antimatter? Okay.
Well,
or fusion
thrusters. That was their big thing first, was like fusion thrusters.
Producing these engines and stuff. That's one of the things that they're very much known for. Okay.
Yeah. And
Very
then,
cool.
obviously later, they have quantum drives.
Yep.
They produce that too.
Absolutely.
And their factories are super dangerous for that. I think we're going to get to that.
Yep. Okay, why don't you read that one, the company?
Sure, absolutely. So the company of ArcCorp deemed a megacorporate monster by the Terra Gazette for their growing portfolio consisting of acquired companies and even an entire planet. ArcCorp had previously been best known as the manufacturer of immensely popular quantum drives and thrusters. However, since their purchase of Stanton 3 from the UEE, their dedication to the creation of a privately owned manufacturing world has overshadowed the company's other accomplishments. With its place as one of the largest corporations in the empire firmly intact, it's hard to believe that ArcCorp's first iteration failed.
Okay. It's like you said, quantum drives, thrusters, that's the thing that they've been really, and now that's their big thing that they produce. I'm sure it'll be interesting to see if there's some other things that unfold about that company beyond that, because I know everything's kind of still, and even the Lore Makers. And by the way, guys, Lore Makers came out between 2017 and 2018, 2016, 2017, something. There was like a 2-3 year period that they produced those. And a lot of times when you watch Lore Makers, there's a lot of information in there that is very minimal. And over the years, when you go back and look in the Galactopedia, you'll see where they have expanded. So if you're interested in the topics that we're talking about and some stuff you saw in that video, go to the Galactopedia. Quite often you'll see that they have fleshed out the lore a bit more. And Jade, correct me if I'm wrong, if it gets into the Galactopedia, it's probably going to be like pretty solid,
Yeah,
probably.
Typically, now,
And I'm saying Galactopedia, none of that website stuff. I'm talking about the Galactopedia.
The Galactopedia itself. They do, however, because they have to have that flexibility, reserve the right to retcon certain things.
Yep.
And, as we've seen with Pyro. So even though it's in the Galactopedia, it's still not written in stone until the game is released.
Exactly. Okay. All right. We're going to hit the next one here. This is an interesting one about the politics. Although the planet is in the jurisdiction of the UEE, it is not represented in the UEE Senate to avoid possible corruption. Now, Jade, I tried to look up some stuff on this and figure out what exactly that meant. I mean, I get it to a certain degree. You don't want the big business to be involved because their influence and their money could definitely sway decisions that maybe the Senate is going to do. So I'm wondering if there's just a ban in general, because I'm wondering, like, are the Hurstons in there?
Yes. The entire Stanton system is this way. There's none of the planets.
None of the planets are represented. Was that part of their deal, wasn't it? Or something? Was that part of their deal? Okay.
Yeah, because of that very reason, is that there would be too much influence. They wouldn't really represent their people. They'd be representing
their business interests.
However, that leads to the problem that those people aren't represented.
Exactly.
So it's taxation without representation.
Yep.
Where have we heard that before?
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario to a certain degree.
Exactly.
Because the people have no voice in their subject.
You want a voice, move to Levski.
Well, there you go. Wait a minute. Listen. Let me tell you about our good friend Colossal, who resides and loves Hurston, okay? He has no problem with that autocratic government over there running people's lives. His attitude is, if you sign the contract, welcome to Hurston. That's the way he feels.
Isn't he like a Sith in Star Wars?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that explains everything.
Exactly. That is his attitude about. Matter of fact, by the way, guys, if you ever go to Hurston and Colossal's on, if this is the God's honest truth, y'all, I'm telling you, he will do this. He will meet you at your hangar standing there with a plastic bag to put over your head when you get there. All right. I'm just letting you know he actually does do that. Okay. All right. That's the politics side. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about the stuff that you guys quite often see and hopefully give you a little bit of background on some of these. And that's the POIs. Jade, when I wake up at Adira Falls Apartments.
Yes.
A planet completely occupied by companies means qualified workers are always in demand. Many independent contractors use Area 18 as their central hub, grabbing a hab at the Adira Falls apartment between gigs. Now, that was one of the reasons also why I chose to go here versus Hurston, because even though there are people who work at ArcCorp, just like Hurston, the difference is that there's also room for independent contractors, people who just want to use that as their place to stay. Also, I think, when I look at Hurston compared to ArcCorp with where I want to reside, let me tell you guys, unless you got a lot of money living in Hurston, you're going to be living in the outskirts. And at least in ArcCorp, there's a possibility you'll have like a decent, it's not going to be Manhattan penthouse, but it'll be something nice, So that's one of the other reasons why I like ArcCorp too. Not to mention a lot of supplies and stuff I like that I get there.
Yeah.
Jade, let's talk about the Central Plaza, because we can kind of talk about that in relation to our opening too. Why don't you hit that one?
Yep. Central Plaza, take a second to soak up it all and admire Memphis Avery's famous floating sculpture. And it's just around the corner from Adira Falls. I just want to mention, Adira Falls is great because it's conveniently located. You got a clothing shop right across, a Casaba outlet, and then, just to the right of that, you have Cubby Blast, the weapons and armor shop.
Yep.
So it makes a lot of sense that the first, in-game tutorial was here at Area 18.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons why I like it, because at least for the stuff that I use, I know there's some items that other people want, but the bulk of the things that I want for personal weapons, and not to mention on your way out, you run right past the hospital there.
Yeah.
So on your way to the tram, so it's not like I have to go out of my way and make extra trips to go certain places.
Yeah, and then if you go to IO North Tower, you have the ship weapons.
You get the other weapons. Yep,
Intermask.
absolutely. Okay, this was also interesting. I remember when CIG put this in, this was something that we were excited about. I don't want to get past that. Memphis Avery's artwork.
Yeah.
Let me tell you guys something. I use Memphis Avery's artwork to determine how well the servers are running. Okay, because for a couple patches, that artwork, with the rotors in it and stuff, the spokes, it would not move. Now, this is interesting, Jay. When 318 came out, 317, 318. When 318 was in the PTU, that artwork was running all the time, and it ran smoothly. And then when 318 came out, and the bugs came out, it came back to a screeching halt again. And so I don't know what the deal is with that when that thing is running, to me, it's almost like when that thing's running, that means that everything can run well in the game. And if it's not running, that means they still got problems going on, and it's not worth putting the resources into that thing operating. Maybe I'm wrong. Right now, when you go there are about 50 NPCs standing underneath it most of the time. Don't ask me how they got out there. But it's kind of a buggy thing right now in the game, but
they're on strike.
They're on strike. Is that what it is? They went out there. We're not working anymore. We're gonna stay out here until you bring us more pay.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about like the working conditions at those factories, like the fusion drives and lore.
Yeah.
They're so dangerous
that
they had to make one for tourists that basically have like holograms and animatronics doing the work, because they don't want people to see is how bad the working conditions are.
Pretty bad. Let's see, the Fizz hologram. People were very excited about this when we first saw it. I know plenty of people like myself who went under the hologram and watched it pour and drop down on me. But you guys know that there are a lot of holograms in ArcCorp. It's not just the Fizz hologram. There's the and it's interesting because this hologram does not do like the one in Microtech does. The one when you go into the tower that meets you right below the stairs. It kind of says something, but it's not like it does, like where you can ask it questions and stuff. And then there's the real big one, like the big 30-story one that's outside when you're getting ready to catch the tram. That is
Yeah,
definitely
when she's
reflective.
holding the quantum drive.
Yes, and it's very reflective of Blade Runner, that particular one. So I like the fact that they have the holograms and stuff throughout the city in different places, and even for their advertising, things like that. I like that type of thing. There's something about going, and I wish ArcCorp had more of a, I figure out how to say this the right way because it's difficult, more of a day-night feel. I don't know if that makes sense. Sometimes you can run through ArcCorp, and because you can't distinguish night from day sometimes, I want to feel like a nightlife feeling. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? When it's night, it's nighttime, like the city lights up or something. I don't know.
What I think they could do more. I mean, they definitely it does have a day-night cycle in terms of the lighting.
Yeah.
I think they
just
could
don't
do more.
Sense it. You know what I mean? I don't.
It's because everything is towering above you during the day.
You're surrounded by nothing but buildings. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what that was kind of what they wanted to go for. Like these cities are so massive, you can't even see the sun. That's like that's a luxury, right? Like maybe if you're rich, you get to actually
be up
have
there,
a
the top penthouse
near the top, right? But if you're just the little people, you don't even get to see the sun during the day.
That's about it, right?
Yeah.
All right, why don't you do the next one there?
Okay, so the next one would be the G-Lock bar. Yeah. So once you've worked up a thirst, duck into the G-Lock bar and grab a drink off their extensive menu. And from our experience, the wingman's hangover goes down easy, but packs a punch. and you might want to be there when DK's, Dark Knight 75 does his show from the G-Lock bar.
That's right. He sure does.
Yeah.
I remember in the Area 18 module, there was a G-Lock bar. There was the hospital, the G-Lock bar, Cubby Blast, and the TDD. Those were there because Kasaba hadn't opened yet. The ship store hadn't opened yet. And I remember when you went to G-Lock bar, some of you may remember this if you're around a long time, G-Lock bar had 2 levels to it. There was an entrance level, and then there was a way, Jade, where you could run along the wall outside and scale up it and glitch your way up to the second floor. Remember that, the balcony up there?
Yeah, and you could go down to the constellation.
Yes. You guys have no idea how much time you spent trying to push through glitches back in the day in Area 18. Because there were all these
intentionally making glitches to do stuff like that.
Well, you had all these cool things you could see and couldn't get to. Like you said, the Connie, the freelancer that was out on the deck, and we wanted to get out there. And people used to climb the big garbage bin and go through the fence line, or stoop down and like crouch. And then when you would get up, it would make you push through the glass doors.
Yeah.
All the crazy things that we would do.
That was the way I would go.
Yeah. All the crazy things we would do.
Okay. That and those go-karts.
The Gray Cat Killers. Murder on on Area 18. The PTVs at one point, gang, they used to spawn in to that area where the artwork is, and if you came out of customs and didn't look to your left and right, somebody would mow you down in a heartbeat. But
and people want roads, and people want. No, I'm joking. But like I think that probably gave CIG some data of if we give these people a bunch of cars, what are they gonna do if we don't have like something to prevent them from doing it? Right.
In Fast Cart, you're absolutely right. Jade, you see what Fast Cart said?
Yeah.
When you glitch through, this is what happened, gang. When you glitched through to get to where the constellation was, you were so pumped up because you had to jump over this fence, come down this area, then you'd get down on the dock. And there was no way to get to this dock unless you knew how to glitch through. And other people on the glass might even see you like, hey, they made it through. Yeah. And you go out to where the Connie was. And at the time, check this out, there was a loading crew down on the Connie moving boxes from out of the Connie and stacking them over on the side. And you would go out there ready to go see what they were doing and check it out. And when you got there, you found out there was nothing but a graphical representation. Because it was like, instead of it being a 3-dimensional box, it would just be a box side and nothing on the other side. So it was just blank and there was nothing there. So it only looked good from the building side. Once you went inside and looked at it, there was nothing. It was disappointing.
We weren't supposed to be out there.
We weren't supposed to be out there. It was disappointing, but it was fun to do it. It was fun to do.
Yeah. And there wasn't, like I came in at the end of that because I came in at 2.5,
Mm-hmm.
2.6 before 3.0. There wasn't anything you could do really on foot other than, like go to, like the different space stations
Mm-hmm.
in the PU, because we didn't have landable planets, right? We
Right.
had no cities. That was in the social module. That was the closest thing we had to like a landing zone, a city in the game. So yeah, people wanted to explore every square inch of that place. And then I remember, you remember the dumpsters and they're like on fire.
With the flames in them?
Fire.
The flames
Yeah.
with the incinerators, the big incinerators.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the
Mhm.
incinerator. Yeah. And
Yep.
then, some of that stuff made it into the current PU, but like
Absolutely.
other things like that didn't. I don't see those incinerators.
No. In fact,
but
that
we have
incinerator area was a scary area when you went down into it too. Remember? Because it was like in the deep, dark, dank area of Area
that's why I went
18.
down there.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
Yeah.
I want to see what's down there. And then,
Mhm.
I like that they had things like that. And I hope they bring more of that back where, you go down a dark alley and then who knows what you'll find at the end of it. It's not just going to be like a dead end. It takes you somewhere else, under city, who knows,
Yep. And you can see where it's also set up very well for, some of you guys know, I don't want to leave ArcCorp too much, but in Microtech, they told us in the lore that at Wally's bar, one of those bartenders there is kind of like an informant. You can talk to them and find out information. And Jade, I'm hoping that's the same thing,
Eddie
like
Parr.
you said, Eddie Parr. And I'm hoping that the same thing happens in the alleyways, stuff like that, where, and maybe especially that they roam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're not just in one particular alley all the time,
Right.
I really want them to be moving around so that you got to go look for them and find them or talk to someone who can tell you where they might be, that kind of thing,
They showed us, Twitch.
Yes.
Cashier.
Yes.
They go walking through the city.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it is possible.
Yes, I know, but you can't walk too far. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We'll get to her. I'm sure.
Okay. The advocacy office inside the IO North Tower instead. Now, some of you guys know last week a couple weeks ago, we did a show on the UEE, and we talked about the advocacy. And the advocacy, I'm trying to think of, Jay, what would we call the advocacy today? So people can understand their level of influence in the... Okay, if you're in the...
They would be the FBI.
They would be the FBI, but...
Like, or Scotland Yard, maybe.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, CIA.
It's more like Scotland Yard than the FBI, I think.
Yeah.
Because they're police, right? But they only handle crimes that are in between, systems and things that rise to a level of a system threat. They're not gonna. The advocacy is not gonna help you out because somebody shot you, right? Or stole something from you.
Right.
But like if it's anything that rises to the level of like interstellar crime, that's or terrorism, things like that, that's what they get involved with.
And they have tremendous powers even outside of their jurisdictions. So they can go outside of UEE space to pursue somebody if they're really looking for somebody. I mean, they're kind of like Blade Runners to a certain degree. That's kind of what ran through my brain, that they just kind of have this outside of the box authority that goes beyond local law enforcement.
Yeah, Kaizen mentioned a good point. Interpol.
Yes, Interpol. Yes, good example. Good example. Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about Cubby Blast.
Yeah, Cubby Blast. The store has all the hallmarks of a basic weapon shop. Inventory on display, options to install purchases on your ship, and the occasional sale. And if you go to Cubby Blast, you'll also see that they have a shooting range that is closed for renovation right now. So hopefully someday we'll be able to go to a shooting range, test out your weapon before you buy it.
Absolutely. And we're going to share some more history about Cubby Blast with you guys in a little bit, about the owner of Cubby Blast, because there is some lore tied into there. But as I mentioned earlier, Jay, that's where I get most of my stuff. I'm definitely a Singularity or Nightfire kind of armor person. I definitely get the all black flight suit. I get one of the all white, flight suits. I get the Arctic armor in there. I get my C-54s in there. I get P-38s out of there. Not P-38s. What is it called? It's the other Gemini pistol, the 38. Yeah. I get that.
86.
Something like that. Yeah. I get all my ammo. I mean, I literally everything I need to go out, I get there. The only thing I don't get there, which I love and I hate that I can't get them, I can't get a P6 because I love the P6.
Yeah.
And I also love the AO3s. They don't sell those there.
Nope, not anymore.
Not anymore, right? I know.
Not
So
anymore.
I have to go get those elsewhere or find them.
Those AO3s,
Okay, you gotta let me know then. You gotta tell me where the hookup is because
yeah.
I love them. I've got them in the subscriber stuff, but I don't ever use my subscriber stuff. But I do love using those particulars. Now, one thing I have been using recently is the oh God, what's that the sniper rifle that everybody hated for a long time? It's Arrowhead. The Arrowhead, and I've been using that thing. That thing was popping people at 300 meters. It's much more stable now and everything. So I've been like, if I don't have anything else, I'll grab this thing. But
and that's the thing. They, because the game is constantly in development, things do change even for the better.
Yeah.
Like we always think about the things that we think changed for the worse, but then we don't talk about things like that, which have changed for the better over the years.
Absolutely. One thing I'm brokenhearted about though is my Aztecs. I love the Aztec now, and you can't buy them in stores. You can only loot them now, so that's heartbreaking. Yeah. Anyway.
Now we're getting away from
I'm getting down my shopping list now. All right, let's talk about this one, Entertainment 9 transmission. Entertainment 9 transmission, ENT, is a Spectrum broadcast network that focuses on live and scripted entertainment programming intended to appeal to humans between the ages of 18 and 34. The network was acquired by ArcCorp in 2873, but has not been otherwise rebranded. In 2908, ENT acquired the assets of its short-lived competitor Realcomm, including the Spectrum program Fakeouts. Now, Jade, for me, this one kind of lent itself toward us understanding that idea of broadcasting things in game, stories, activities, things that happen. This is like one of those companies that could be doing that, Right. Any ideas about something like that, Entertainment 9 or anything like that with broadcasting?
Yeah. So like in Star Citizen lore, people quite often either skip these posts or they don't really read through them, or they'll ask what about their favorite ship when they're posted. But we get a lot of information about like the Star Citizen universe through some of the posts about things like Entertainment 9 and Starwatch Live, these different shows, right? And they all have different demographics they appeal to. Like this one, appeals to humans between 18 and 34. So it's going to have a certain type of content, whereas something else may appeal to different people, right? And it makes the Star Citizen universe feel like a real place. It's not just it's not just you're in a game, you're in an actual virtual universe that has personalities, and there's different people. Like Jax McCleary is the most famous one probably, but there's other people whose names I could give, but most people are like, who's that? And that's because like I read all these posts about things like Entertainment 9 and Starwatch.
Yep. I was thinking too, I'm imagining this, and guys, this is I'm just talking theory stuff now, okay, so bear with. But I am thinking about when you move from system to system, right? If I leave Hurston and as I come into ArcCorp's system, am I able to, if I'm in my 600 or my guests are in my 600, now they're getting a certain broadcast that's relevant to what's going on in that system. Maybe that's how they're finding out the latest. Maybe we've heard something has happened. There's been a rash of piracy that's going on in that community. You go downstairs, you turn on your monitor, and there's a news broadcast from Entertainment 9, right? That's talking about this. Or maybe Entertainment 9 is telling people about an event, a party, something that's going on down in the G-Lock bar. That those be in-game ways of us finding out about activities, missions, all types of cool stuff that they could use that broadcasting system for as a way to disseminate. Because as much as I think the mobiGlas is cool, there's a part of me that doesn't want everything in my mobiGlas. I don't know if that makes any sense. Not everything. No, I think there should be reasons why I do have to go to the TDD to get certain information, but then other reasons why some of that information is at the TDD could come to my mobiGlas, right? Because I want to have a feeling of why I need to move there, not move, but travel to different places to find out stuff,
Yes.
But that's just
and I think we're getting little hints at that when we have things like Xenothreat and they take over the all the screens, or you see Rowena Dooley come up on the screen.
Yeah.
And things like that, like that's what I'm hoping for things like Entertainment 9 is like you go into a place and something from Entertainment 9 is on, like you said, and they're like, hey, one night only at Wally's, DJ whoever, right? And like you go there and there's different music than you would hear normally, or you go there and you pick up clues to some mission, right? Because I almost called him Wallace Clem. Eddie Parr, the bartender, now has access to some crypto key they give you to go into some facility you normally wouldn't be able to go to, but because you saw that Entertainment 9
right,
directing you to there for a party, all of a sudden that triggers all these other events that you could get involved with. So I really do hope they go to that level.
I mean, maybe even doing something like just paying attention to an interview. You know what I mean? And in that interview, there's those Easter eggs that are telling you about something that you need to do, there's so much they could do with the whole broadcasting thing, right? That would make the game feel, and a reason to turn them on, a reason to turn the monitor on when you get on your ship. You know what I mean?
People want that. Like I always hear people talk about, what am I going to do in these long quantum travels and these other star systems? That's where things like Entertainment 9 and this different shows on Spectrum. So for people that don't know, Spectrum is in the Star Citizen universe. It's not just the forum that we post on, but it's their version of the internet, right? So like Spectrum encompasses all these different things, including video content, like YouTube or Twitch would be. So that's just the umbrella term for what their internet is.
I got to give a shout out to Kavion and Charles here. Kavion said for the 35 plus crowd, they're still playing the 2000th episode season of Young and the Restless. And then Charles says, nope, as the ArcCorp turns. Those are old soap operas, Jade. That there's people are still watching soap operas in the future.
Was that a loss? But okay.
Yeah. You said it said 35 plus, okay? They automatically made it for us old folks who remember soap operas back in the day. Okay, let's talk about a couple more items here, then we're going to take our little break. Jade, I know people have seen this before when they've traveled to ArcCorp, that even though we all go to Area 18, there are some other areas that pop up when you get to the planet. And one of those areas is Area 4. It's an ArcCorp designated industrial and commercial zone. I could not really find a lot about that zone in particular, other than what you shared earlier about how the working conditions are not that great on ArcCorp. Is there anything you know about Area 4 in particular?
No, not in particular, but just more generally in lore, ArcCorp puts all their factories and things like that along the equator. So I think eventually Area 4, if it's not already, I should know this. But
it'd be worth checking,
So apologies, but it should be like, an equatorial region, since that it should be located in an equatorial region, I should say, since that's, where most of their factory stuff is.
I said Area 6 earlier, guys. My correction, I'm sorry, too many numbers in my head. Area 7, a location that includes the Ermer Family Farms Creamery store, visited by Jax McCleary during Intergalactic Aerospace 2949. So I'm telling you guys now, next Saturday, Admiral Kusanagi's always asking me, what are we going to do on Saturday night? Because he always wants to know what I have in my head. Next Saturday, y'all, we're going to go and try and find that creamery, okay? We're going to go to Area 7 and see if maybe we'll have some type of thing, whoever finds it wins something. I don't know, but we're going to see if the creamery is at Area 7. By the way, don't forget, if you want to see that, where they actually do fly to Area 7, just look for the IAE video for 2949 for Kruger, and you'll see Jax flies over to Area 7. James, why don't you go to Area 17?
Yes, Area 17. This zone was visited during the CitizenCon 2947 demo. At the time, it was located approximately 25 kilometers away from Area 18. Currently, it exists only as a mark on the map, much further away from Area 18, and has no gameplay purposes.
I'm curious as to what they moved it. I don't know if it says it's further away now.
Yeah.
I've tried to look at it and find out if there's some pattern to where everything is on there.
There isn't.
Yeah, I haven't been able to figure out one. Okay,
there's no pattern to it, at least yet. I mean, I would hope that when they redo the planet, to add those areas we were talking about, I do hope that they do have some kind of, I don't know, some system so that you can understand where a place is just from reading the name. Oh, it's Area 26. Okay, it's up near, the North Pole or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, why don't you do those next two for me then?
Sure. So speaking of Area 26, that is where the Stellar Fashion Exhibition was held in the NWO2 Tower. And yes, they do have fashion shows in the Star Citizen universe, because we have fashions in the Star Citizen universe. And I do hope that we at some point will be able to go to Area 26, see a cutting edge fashions that are going to be, something available to us, like maybe in the next year. Like that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Ray from Ray's Guide, Daniel Raymond, has a great video about luxury. And he came up with just ideas for what does it mean to have a career in luxury. And one of his ideas was that when you incorporate reputation into that career, that reputation could be tied into certain events or locations that you travel to and participate in. So you may have someone who's doing the luxury career and they attend a fashion show that is happening someplace. And you go to that fashion show, and that's how you gain reputation in that particular area. So it was interesting that he came up with these different type of social things that can happen in the game. And so it could be maybe a fundraiser, or maybe it's something at a club or a bar. You know what I mean? A bar crawl, anything like that. These locations, and the reason why we're sharing this with you all, guys, is that, CIG has said, both inferred and said, that when they put things in the game, that they're not always just there for cosmetic sake, but there is something that they're thinking about, a direction that they could go and how they could use that to make gameplay better and more fulfilling. And so for some people, going to a fashion show will mean absolutely nothing. There are other people that they hear about the fashion show, they're like, where do I get my tickets? They're providing a social dynamic. And Jade and I came out of we played Second Life. I mean, you come out of these social dynamic games that are about, interactions with people and stuff. Imaginations run wild. And I guarantee you, Jade and I will both be at the fashion show, because that's something that we would enjoy doing,
And in Second Life, fashion shows are epic. I mean, there's literal real life photographers that have brought their skills into Second Life to then do photography. They produce magazines and stuff like that. And this is all like, user or community, driven content.
Stuff,
and I love seeing now we're starting to get a little bit of that in Star Citizen. And a lot of people have come over, not just, you and me and, Joe Run, but like even newer people I've met, like one of the DJs on TPR, Wild Rachel, and like her friends, they all came over from Second Life just recently. Like I think 2021, they found Star Citizen.
Yeah.
So there is a connection between these things. And I do think it's because, Chris Roberts calls Star Citizen the second life in space, or space second life, right? So because of the way this is built, these areas, they may not have much in them now when we go to them, but future things they will.
Yep, absolutely. And you can see other aspects, like we've always talked about the news van with the Mako and stuff in relation to maybe recording combat. But what if that same Mako is doing surveying for land, right? Or maybe those people who are into that type of recording and making videos go to a fashion show and produce a video from it. There's so many things that could happen with something like that. I know it seems like a big deal, guys, but we're hoping that they go in that direction. Go ahead and hit that last one for Area 39.
Right, Area 39, where Chlor V used to operate Cubby Blast in a small stall nestled in a back alley on the 4th tier until the Avasi scandal of 2931 allowed him the opportunity to secure a storefront in Area 18 with a favorable long-term lease. And it's a really good location because all those people coming out of Adira Falls make a beeline right for it. So
absolutely,
that scandal really benefited his business.
Absolutely. And like I said, Cubby Blast, that's my store. I hit that one. I'll hit some other ones later, but that's where I kick off from, is right there. And the prices are good too, by the way. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to move on here.
This show is sponsored by Cubby Blast.
There you go. I'm sorry, I forgot to put this up, guys, but there it is. Okay, there's your stuff for it. Let's go. We'll do the next one, and then we'll get and talk about St. Jude a little bit here. Let's talk about Chlor V. Okay. A Cathcart expatriate Chlor V brings a seemingly inexhaustible knowledge of his wares along with a hint of danger, as we're sure that his familiarity comes from personal experience. These personalities that we're going to be talking about, we know that CIG is setting up to be our what we call mission givers, where there's going to be some type of interaction that you have with them. They have a lore in the game. Jade just read about how Chlor V was originally in a different location. Say he was in the alley of the 4th tier. Don't know what the 4th tier was, but basically wherever he was, it wasn't that a great place to be. But something happened later on where he was able to secure a better location, a more prime location at Area 18. And then the fact that they infer for a favorable long-term lease, which means that there was some type of deal struck. And maybe as time unfolds, we'll find out why Chlor V got this prime, as Jade mentioned, prime real estate right outside and where everybody goes. I mean, even more than going to Cinemass. I mean, Cinemass, yeah. You gotta know where even Cinemass is to get to it, right? But this joint here, as soon as you come out the door, you see it, and that's where people gravitate to more than anything else. Right now, Chlor doesn't operate as a mission giver, just there. Is that person behind the counter Chlor V now? Because no, I don't think so, right? It's not the same person because the image is very different than the one we have. I mean, even though this is concept art, but it's just somebody working there. But I am hoping that maybe Chlor V will be in the back room or something. I don't know. We'll have to see.
You may, and I'm just theory crafting here. It may be something like where, maybe Chlor V isn't a mission giver, but you can find if you can find Chlor V somewhere walking around, Area 18, that he can like hook you up with maybe a heavy weapon like a rail gun under the table, something like that. I would love to see.
That would be good. And Chlor V kind of could also operate like what's the guy, the Hurston guy, who's sitting at his desk?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Carnelli.
Yeah.
You mean
not Clovis. The Hurston guy, the son, who's in the office up there.
Yeah.
I just want to see him in the game. I don't want just the lore there. I'm hoping they would see him in the game.
I agree. And, same with, we do have Eddie Parr. Do have Eddie Parr, but he doesn't give missions yet.
Right.
But we don't have Devin, Batista.
Yep.
The Crusader people. And yet. So those are more future things.
Okay. Why don't you do this one?
Sure. Going to talk about your wife. Kesha Twitch Pacheco is a drug dealer with connections who resents Blackjack Security, her former employer. She can be found in Area 18 on ArcCorp. She came up as a soldier who transitioned into freelance security work after her service ended. Things were going well until she suffered nerve damage on a job for Blackjack and was fired. Heartless. Regardless of this, she tries to hide the fact that fact and maintain her reputation as a respected soldier. Left without employment, but with a very special skill set, Twitch used her knowledge of the criminal underworld of ArcCorp to her advantage and began operating her own illegal enterprise. Pacheco can provide the player with some missions, and she has a rivalry with Blackjack Security, Eddie Parr, Michael Shaw, and Wallace Clem.
Yep. Got a lot of enemies. Yeah, a lot of enemies out there.
And I won't give anything away, but I know some things about her background that I'm sure we'll find out more about her. But she was a pilot too.
Yes.
She was an awesome pilot at one time.
Yep, absolutely. I'm curious to see, and some of you all have done the Tessia or the Twitch missions before. And this is if I'm not mistaken, Jay, this is our only mission giver that is on ArcCorp. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So
for now,
for now. And I'm hoping that this whole idea of syndicates, black market, that this gets expanded more. Right now, they have the character of Twitch. She's surrounded by a couple of her goons. But I'm hoping that they built it out even more. And so if you haven't had a chance to go back and I think you have to. I don't think you can get missions from Tessia. It's something you have to do first, and then eventually she asks you to meet up with her, and then you are able to get missions from her. Because if you just go and you haven't done anything, she won't talk to you. What are you gonna
there's
say?
a thing that'll pop up on your Moby Glass where messages usually come see me.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, check that mission out. Does she give out that mission? I know she gives the drug mission. And I don't know if they've changed it. It used to be the mission that you would do with the cutlass, where they would give you a cutlass and you go in and do the drugs. Does she also give out she doesn't give out that rescue mission though, does she? The one on the Caterpillar?
She does.
Oh, she does give that one. She is the one that does that one too. Price of Freedom. Okay. I have never done that mission yet. That's why I'm asking. So that's why I was wondering if she does do that mission. Okay. That's good to know. Alrighty. All right. We've been chopping through this little by little. We're chopping through it a lot. As you guys know, we talked about this earlier. We are in the midst of our fundraiser for St. Jude Children's Hospital. We're going to run the promo for that real quick, talk about it one more time, and then we're going to get into the last of our conversations about ArcCorp. So let's check it out.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and YouTube are teaming up to help end childhood cancer.
In September, supporters from across the nation come together during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month to raise money for the kids of St. Jude.
And that's when YouTube gamers will be posting videos and live streaming to raise funds to support the life-saving mission of St. Jude.
At St. Jude, families never receive a bill for treatment, travel, housing, or food, because all a family should worry about is helping their child live.
Money raised also supports the research that leads to groundbreaking medical discoveries that St. Jude freely shares around the globe.
I can only imagine as a parent the relief that they feel when someone like St. Jude steps in.
I think it's a really good lesson for us to realize that we need to do more, and we can do more.
It is a huge step in the right direction, a huge step in helping just people and giving back.
It's all for good, and we have a responsibility, a social responsibility to help out.
Find your favorite video or live stream during St. Jude Play Live on YouTube for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and donate to this amazing cause.
Your support will help St. Jude further its incredible mission.
Finding cures, saving children.
Let's end childhood cancer together.
Alrighty, let's end it together. And very quickly, I'm going to show you guys once again. I've got to change that out now. I got to change it, Jade. We are now reaching our $3,000 mark. I don't know. I forgot to change that. I have to change it. We've got our $2,000 tier. And next up is going to be our $3,000 tier. You guys have us right now at $2,100. That's great. Thank you so much. Someone has already given us a number to bring us up to $2,100. We just need another $900, which we hope we can make by the end of August. We're shooting for the end of August. I know that's only 10 days away, but we know that you guys can help us get to that $3,000 mark, or at least by the first week in September. I'll give it to the first week in September. But thank you guys so much. We've been able to do our giveaways, and that 12-hour live stream is coming up. So Jade, make sure you get plenty of rest. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Oh, you know, I will. Trust me. That 12-hour live stream, when I know it's locked in and we're going to do it, I will.
Okay.
I'll be on it.
You'll be good to go. All right. Okay, let's jump back into it, gang.
I should mention before we leave Area 18, if we can, we didn't mention the place that, some people will remember. They don't go to it frequently. The Million Mile High Club.
Ooh.
Area 18 is the home of the Million Mile High Club.
Let me, while you're talking about it, let me see if I can pull up a picture real quick, okay?
Yes.
Go ahead. You can talk about it.
Oh, yeah. So the Million Mile High Club is this exclusive place, right? And it is in IO North Tower, same place as Cubby Bless, but only certain people have access to it. And Griff will tell you more about that because he was around when that became a thing.
I don't know if I really want to tell him about all that.
You can just give just a brief overview.
All right, I'm going to see. I don't know why these images always come up like doggone web. Files. Okay, guys, I'm going to try and pick this up and talk about it at the same time.
I'll keep talking about what it is currently.
Could you? Because I'm trying to do some Photoshop work simultaneously.
So imagine this place that was going to be for like the super rich and well-connected people, right? But, over the years, they haven't really renovated. And when you go in there now, it's yeah, and I'm not a member, by the way, but I've been lucky enough to be with some people who were. It's kind of dated compared to, let's say, if you go up to the top of the bar in Orson, it's interesting that it still exists. People do, I guess, go to it.
Yeah.
But I would love for them to make it more a part of Area 18, where you could look out. It's at the top of the tower, and you could look out from maybe a balcony, or just sort of like what they've done with the name escapes me. Somebody could help me out in chat of the place in Orson.
The bar. Oh yeah. Yeah. I can't think of the name of it, but there's the image of it on the screen, gang. Now, let's give you the real world thing about this particular location. The Million Mile High Club got initiated as a perk for those who donated in the game in the early days. Back in the day, if you gave a contribution of $10,000 as a backer, you got access to this club. And believe me, this was considered a very exclusive thing. And you have to remember, back in 2012, 2013, 2014, giving $10,000 was, unheard of toward a game. So the group of people who gave toward that was a very small group of people. But then the excitement about this game grew, and there are quite a few people who have done a $10,000 package. Now, let me make sure this is clearly understood. You couldn't accumulate up to $10,000 to get access. You had to do the $10,000 package to get into the club. CIG has changed that over the years to make it a little bit more exclusive. And now, in order to get in, you have to spend $15,000. No, not to spend. You have to buy the $15,000 package to gain access to the Million Mile High Club. Now, there are other clubs in the game, Jade, which we also didn't talk about last week when we rehearsed. And there are chairman's clubs that are in the game. And chairman's clubs would be the equivalent of like when you go to the airport, and sometimes like American Airlines United has like a VIP or a captain's club. It would be something like that. It's a more private area where you can wait for your flights, maybe get some snacks, drinks, and things like that. But this Million Mile High Club has its own bar, its own bartender, a dance floor. There are fish tanks surrounding the room. As Jade said, it does feel a little dated. There are some cool things in there, but it also kind of feels like the old guy's cigar lounge. It's kind of like the only thing I would equate it to today. It does need renovation, and it also is small. Now, you might say, well, how do I get in there? How would you get in? Well, if Jade happens to be someone who has donated that certain dollar amount to the game, she can invite me to come in, and I can go into the club with her. I can't go without her. I have to go with her to be able to do it. And the idea for this was that backers could bring their friends, or like if it was an org, they could say, we're going to rent out. And I don't know how they're going to structure this later on, Jade, whether you have to book the room, because you know what I mean? Yeah. They're going to have to figure out something that says a schedule or something that says we want to be in there from 1,400 to 1,500. Because otherwise people will be crashing other people's events in there. And God only knows how many people you could try to cram into a Million Mile High Club.
Well, I know during 2949, I did a Yuri's Night bar crawl through the Stanton system, and we ended up at we went to Levski too, but we ended up here totally like unannounced. Wikipedia from CIG like hooked us up and let us all in.
Nice.
And so you can imagine a whole server of people trying to get in that place. It was good. It was a good stress test for it, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, everything's prototype, right? Especially stuff like this. It's their first tier zero of what an exclusive club would be in the game. They could very easily make the Million Mile High Club have 5 different rooms to it, right? Each one having its own theme, but once again, being very exclusive. I like the idea of there being some exclusivity to it. Now, let me tell you how this translates into the game, into the real world. For those of you who may be attending CitizenCon, I don't know if CIG is doing this again. I'm just going to tell you what they did do in the past. They did do tiered areas of where, depending on where you've given, where you could go at the event. Now, it's not like you're not getting, how can I say this? It's not like somebody who's given $5,000 gets something that someone who's given $500. It's not like that. What they would do is create at the convention center certain areas that were private areas for people at different concierge levels. So if you were at a $5,000 or a $1,000 level, they would have a bar, and it would be an area at the convention where you could go and other people who have given at your level could come there and hang out with you. And, you know, it was just a more intimate, quieter thing, but there were bars elsewhere. There were other things elsewhere where people could go too, but that's where you could go. If you wanted to meet up with your org and some friends, kick back, have a nice view. I remember when we were in Austin, I can't remember what tier I was at, but I remember I was at like I don't remember what tier I was. I'm not going to say how much money it was, but I was at a certain tier where I went out and we had a balcony and I could look out over Austin. It was outdoors. It wasn't in the convention center, but you came outside onto a deck and they had its own private bartender and you could drink and hang out there and stuff. It was a nice little perk, something that CIG gave us, but it wasn't like we had anything more special in there other than sitting out in the heat in Austin and looking outside versus being in the air conditioning part of the convention center and having a drink and eating food in there. But it was a nice little something, you know, that they tied that in to people who were Chairman's Club members had their own kind of place to go hang out. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for
So
remembering
that's
that because I
really not-
forgot.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't remember it before the show, but
Yeah.
I was just thinking like there's something we're missing, and then I remembered. Yeah.
Yep. Million Mile High Club. Absolutely. Okay. Alrighty then. Let's shut that off. And let's jump into our next part that we're going to be talking about. We did our personalities, and now we are on
Lyria.
Lyria, right? Why don't you go ahead and hit
Yeah.
that one?
Yeah, Lyria is an icy moon that features active cryogeysers and cryovolcanoes.
Could you
And-
explain those two words for us, please?
Oh, yes, absolutely, of course. So a cryovolcano is a volcano that erupts with like ice, water ice or CO2 ice, right? Like dry ice, and other materials like other volatiles, right? So methane, ammonia, instead of things like, molten rock and things like lava, magma. Yeah. So that's what a cryovolcano is. And we have some of these in our own solar system. So if you were to look at Enceladus, one of the moons of Saturn, it's literally spraying water out into space from cryovolcanism, and it's actually creating part of Saturn's E-ring.
Yep.
Right? So
Yep.
like it's really cool. Cryovolcanoes are moons with cryovolcanism. Typically, like what we've seen is that they're heated by tidal forces, right? So that's what that's what we think is the source of the cryovolcanism. So being basically compressed and expanded, and that creates fissures and stuff comes up.
Right. I had to when I read this, I said, let me look it up, see what's going on. And the stuff at Saturn was what came up when I read it.
Yeah.
I remember playing, I know this is a real veering off, guys, but I remember a group of us were playing Sea of Thieves. And there's this one island that you go to that is tremendously unstable when you're there. And you could be walking around on it and everything's fine. Then all of a sudden, the volcano erupts. It goes into this crazy thing. And Jade, I was thinking, the fact that they've mentioned something like this, we talk about what are the dangers when we go out into space.
Yeah.
What happens if you are, maybe this area is resource rich, but at the same time, volatile, right? Yeah. Not a safe place to be necessarily.
Yeah.
And this gets into the whole thing of, CIG can get into a whole thing about when is it better to fly in versus drive in, dynamic weather, any type of surface things that could be happening that can determine what bringing the right tool for the right job, right suit, right, for the right job, right, depending on what's going on.
Absolutely. And if I were CIG, here's how I would do this. It's like you have the cryovolcanoes, the cryogeysers, and it could be once we get moons and planets actually orbiting, right, and we have certain times in Lyria's orbit where those things go off.
Yes.
And if you're driving around in a rock mining or you got your prospector out there and you're just like, oh yeah, I don't need to worry about any of the cycles of the moon orbits. That stuff's for astrophysicists. Nope, that stuff's for you.
Yep, absolutely. And again, do your homework, right? When you decide to visit Lyria, Illyria,
Exactly.
make sure you bring the right suit. Some of our suits can go down to negative 225 degrees. You know what I mean? But, you get on your ship and like right now, the game is real forgiving, guys. It is extremely forgiving. But I know one night I was out with Colossal. We were on Clio or someplace, and man, the temperature dropped. And you watched that time frame of how long you could be exposed drop like a rock. It went from literally like 45 minutes down to like 7 minutes. It was crazy. And I want them to make the game where you need to be paying attention to all this information about a location when you go to it, not just assume that you can just land there and roam around and do what you want to do for as long as you want to do it. The orbital distance here, this is closest to ArcCorp.
Yep.
119. 680.
119,680 kilometers.
Okay. All right.
And like again, those things are gonna make a difference.
Yep.
A good example of a place that has volcanism in our solar system. The most volcanic place in our solar system is Io, which is a moon of Jupiter, and a lot of that is due to its orbital distance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. With Walla, let's go there next.
Yep. Walla.
Yep. Go ahead. You read. Go ahead.
Okay. The low density of Walla is particularly susceptible to tidal forces, which result in the moon being noticeably prolate. And it's got an orbital distance of 257,311 kilometers. And for people that don't know, prolate means it's more potato shaped.
Yep.
So it may not look exactly that way in the game. Very happy to be here. Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Rooster. Appreciate that.
But yeah, it will have a bit.
I want to ask you a question about this.
Yeah.
Susceptible to tidal forces.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean, because my brain gravitates toward water.
Right.
But does it mean that necessarily? Are we just talking about the type of forces that are created similar to tidal, movement because of orbit or distance gravity or something like that?
So the forces of that create we got the tides, right? Are gravitational interactions, right, between bodies.
Right.
Our moon and the Earth, and even the sun actually creates tides.
Right.
So in this case, that we call them tidal forces because the first place that we as humans experienced them were
with the water. You see the sea going back and forth, right?
Right. But tidal forces affect can affect everything, and it's basically those gravitational interactions, and because of its composition and its density, it's more deformed because of those tidal forces than Lyria.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, alrighty, that's Walla. And next up, one of my favorite orbital stations, Bajini Point. A transit station from Area 18. Facilities include a cargo deck, Platinum Bay, food court, unbranded ship weapon shop, and an unbranded clothing shop. Now, they say unbranded, but that was back in the day when this is written. But you guys know basically what the weapon shops are and what the clothing shops are. Kasaba, you know that. Go ahead.
Well, there are independent shops
yes.
in some of these stations that they don't have like
any name.
They made. They're like like a mom and pop weapon shop.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And I forget, CIG said they've got like over, is it 250 or 350 brands or something in the game that they worked on for logos and stuff,
Yeah, and those are just the brands now. They've got a whole team that's working on branding. So people might think, 350 brands in the game, that's a lot. But this is a big universe.
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to keep adding brands, probably even after release.
Absolutely. The primary cargo and transfer point for ArcCorp, perfect as a waypoint on your way down or back from the surface. Bajini Point features plenty of amenities for travelers while also providing a top-tier loading unloading system for capital ships that are unable to head down to the surface. It includes shops and services like refueling, restocking, cargo transfers, ship components, clothing, food, and habs. This is, once again, as you guys know, the orbital stations, Bajini, Tressler, Everest, these stations all, and we're beginning a new one as well. These stations all provide particularly cargo decks, an important aspect of the game because these are transfer points for going down to the surface of any of the major planets in a system. And so with the Hull C coming, Jade, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with we start getting this tier 0 or whatever of, large cargo container. CIG has told us that they're going to begin implementing the 16 SCU and the 32 SCU. And I really want cargo decks to become active. Right now you go there, they look cool, but that's it, right? Like at least when you go to the refinery, you do something at the refinery. Right now the cargo decks, people just go there to buy the yellow armor and a cargo box and walk out. I really want to be able to store items when I'm doing mining or whatever at those cargo decks. And again, these transfer points are going to be really critical, particularly when you're trying to move things to other moons, not just going down to ArcCorp, but when that Hull C comes in or that C2, whatever it is loading these large containers or tanks or whatever, you have to have a transfer point. Some you can take to a moon and land, like a C2, you can unload some stuff there. But these larger containers,
32 SCU boxes.
Yeah. When you're doing a some type of not a landing zone, what do you call them? Where people live, where the NPCs will be. No, like on like settlements. Settlements, things of that nature. You want to have a transfer point, even if it means going down to a mining facility. You've got to have a place where all the big stuff gets unloaded, categorized, and then moved out. And not to mention for the purpose of selling and trading, transfer, all that other stuff that comes along with it too. Okay.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. All right. So that's Bajini Point. Last but not least, we're going to touch on this very final one. If you read phonetically, you'd probably say Lagrange. But if you know, it's Lagrange, if you want to say the right thing. Jay, why don't you talk about Lagrange, and then this is, you could list the ones that we have over at ArcCorp in that system.
Right. So do you want me to explain what I think everybody that's played the game kind of knows what a Lagrange
we never know somebody, never know. Okay. So feel free to talk about it.
So this was a really cool thing that CIG did to put in, some more real world science into the game is they needed a place. I'm just going to explain it from a gaming standpoint, and then that also tie in the science. They needed a place for these stations, right? And we needed, a place that these stations wouldn't, when they start having things orbiting, which is in, the future they plan to do, they wanted these stations to be stationary, right? And so how would you do that with physics? And the way that you do it is you locate them at a Lagrange point, and that's a place in space where the gravity of one body and a gravity of another body basically balance each other out, right? So these things could stay there. And there's two different types of Lagrange points. There's stable ones and unstable ones, right? So if you think of the stable ones, it's like a valley, right? Things could get collected there, like maybe small asteroids. Your station could be there for millennia, maybe, right? And then there's ones that are more like a peak, like a mountain, that you could perfectly balance something there, but they're not super stable, right? That something would have to maybe, like we have these in our solar system. We've sent different telescopes, the James Webb Space telescopes at a Lagrange point. We have them in the game, and this is a great thing because not just space stations, but other activities in the future could be tied to these Lagrange points. And we've already seen it with things like, Xenothreat, where people leave Microtech Lagrange point L1, a station that's located there. And, it makes a lot of sense that you'd have Microtech L1 there, and not too far from there, you also have INS Jericho, right? So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm reading DK's remark here. Remember when there were no Lagrange clouds? When you flew into the station from a star directly in front of you and then rammed into the asteroid. It came out of nowhere. Yeah, good times. I don't know if there were good times, DK, but yeah, I do. We've watched the Lagrange points evolve, right, over time. Yep. And now you definitely, I think this is when we first started getting our, it's not cloud tech.
It's not planetary cloud tech.
Yeah, it's a different type of thing from the coil and everything else. I don't know what you want to call it. It's not Nebula
Yeah.
Tech. I don't know what it is.
They're not nebulas.
Right,
But,
right.
you know, they kind of look like them,
Right.
but they're much smaller.
Yeah.
I think they call them gas clouds.
That's more
right?
gas cloud tech. That's probably the best thing to it. And what I do love about it is that when you enter into them, there is an actual visual effect of being inside of them. You know, Stanton Star dims dramatically, you know, or before you can't even look at it, but now you just kind of get that glowing orb out in the distance. And as you mentioned, they do have the different artifacts and things that happen to be the asteroids and things that are floating out there. For those of you into salvage, you're obviously familiar with the Lagrange points because a lot of the salvage missions pick up in those areas as well for ships.
And that makes sense too, because those ships would, you know, they would be there. They'd stay there.
They'd stay there.
For gameplay reasons, putting Lagrange points in was
smart.
I love it.
Yep. And it goes along with the science, which is great. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. We have given you our overview of ArcCorp, the system, but we do have some Q&As, Jade. We've got some questions here that people are asking. And as soon as I find my mouse button to bring them up, we will ask them. Here's the first one here. This is from Fastcard. There's a 46 years of Star Wars lore and 10 years of Star Citizen Squadron 42 lore. Do you think that if CIG writers keep up with their current pace, they'll approach the breadth of Star Wars lore? You know, the tough part to me, Jade, in answering that question is that Star Wars is a phenomenon. It's a cultural phenomenon, similar to Star Trek. It's, you know, people all over the world know about those franchises. And because of that, it's been kept alive by its fan base, right?
Yeah. It's multi-generational too.
Exactly. Now, to answer Fastcard's question, does everybody in the world know about Eve? No. You know, a lot of people around the world know about it, but does everybody in the world know about Eve? No. So it's hard for me to compare it against, you know, culture, you know, something that has impacted culture and society on a global scale at that level. Now, if you want to make a comparison between, you know, World of Warcraft, which has been around for going on 20 years. You want to talk about Eve, been around for 20 years. Can Star Wars have that? I mean, can Star Citizen have that same potential to build a storyline and a lore that exists like those games have? Yes.
I can hear Admiral Kusanagi in my ear right now saying Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. Yeah, but Mass Effect's still baby young too. I think, how long has Mass Effect been around? It's been around a good amount of time. I'm not sure if it's been around for 20 years, but it has been around for a little while. But Star Wars, again, and I get where you're going with it, Fastcard. You talking about something that's impactful, and could it be, you know, not to be funny, look at the lore of Wing Commander. That people still talk about Wing Commander years later, you know, that were in that. In the gaming industry, because it had impact. So is the potential there? I would say yes. The potential is there for something like that. We'll have to see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
Jade, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add that,
sure.
You know, because it's such an immersive game and because of, you know, what we've heard from the narrative team about us as players, we have already created some canon lore, right? Like the Daymar Rally is part of the lore. XGR Racing, right? They're part of the lore now because some of those tracks, when you look in the Moby-Glass, it says it was first popularized by XGR Racing. So our achievements, some of the things that we do actually in the Star Citizen universe will affect the lore and so, as you know, I see. We were talking about Second Life earlier. Second Life just this year celebrated their 20th anniversary, right? It's still going. And why? Because the community keeps it going along with the company that made it. The company makes it, Linden Labs, so they're going to keep it going as long as the community is there. I see Star Citizen's persistent universe being just like that. Like in the 2040s, there'll be a Star Citizen persistent universe. It'll probably be very different than what it is now, but it will have it because of that community involvement. If they give us that type of agency, and it seems like, you know, they're going to be giving us a lot of it, then that lore, there's going to be a lot of lore that came right from the community over that 20 years. Just like there is right now. And if you're in Second Life, like there's things that you know about the furry wars, you know about all that stuff from older, you know, people
players,
that have been around, players that have been around then.
And also, Fast Car, I think the other thing too is one of the reasons why I started that CIG was smart in creating a narrative team was not just to give us this stuff based around Squadron 42, but that it becomes a living document that, as Jade mentioned, continues to grow. And it grows based upon both what the writers create in the sense of the sandbox side, but then also what the players do. Jumptown is an example of that as well, right?
Yeah.
That
definitely.
grew out of something, and they listened. They paid attention to it. They looked at the analytics and the gameplay, the enthusiasm, the way people went to do it, and somebody was smart enough to say, hey, we need to be paying attention to what's going over here. How do we make this a part of what's going on? And it took off, right? So if that ingredient continues between that symbiotic relationship between what the players do, as well as some very good writers create for the players, then yeah, I think that lore will continue to grow. The Galactopedia will build out, and it could be around 20 plus 30 years. It'll be, this is an ambitious project, so you have to think ambitious. If you want to compare it to what people have been doing in the past, yeah, it'll, to me, we got to think big if we want it to stick around, like Jade said. Okay.
Yes. Exactly.
Next question. Is there a dress code to enter the Million Mile Hike bar? That's from Kavion. Jade.
No.
There's no dress code now, but what do you think, though? Do you think that could be part of reputation? If you don't come dressed the right way, the bouncers don't even let you in?
People came in with heavy armor, and I'm like, there's no way somebody let you into a club like that.
Come in with your boxers,
right?
on,
or
maybe.
Your boxers, yeah. But I do think, that at some point they'll have like NPCs block your way, like
there's a bouncer at the door. Remember, there's a bouncer at the door.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was. Yeah, that's exactly what I was referring to. You won't be able to get past them if you don't have the right attire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, this gives you a reason to go to what's the store in Microtech with the nice clothes?
Oh yes,
and the
Apparelli.
one in Oris and Apparelli. I mean, it gives you a reason to say, I got to go to, if I want to go to this party,
Apparelli or Macau,
that somebody's right, Macau, right, and somebody's throwing a party, and they say it's at the Million Mile High Club. Like you said, I can't stroll in there with my flight suit on. I need to go get a certain whatever that gives me the reputation to get past that bouncer. This is real easy stuff, right? If you don't wear the right stuff, bouncers, you can't, elevator don't open for you. You get there, elevator lets you come in, right? And again, it creates some stuff for you to do in the game that builds reputation even for yourself, I think that's a great idea. All right, this is another one from Abyssian. What's the crime and violence rate of ArcCorp in the lore? The planet always seemed harmless to me, like Microtech. I would hope that there will be tons of bounties to hunt and destroy the maze stash missions in the various area zones.
Yeah.
You want to cover a little bit of that?
Yeah, I'll cover that. So, there's a fair amount of crime.
A lot.
There's a lot, actually.
You don't want to walk around, without looking.
Yeah. Both violent and non-violent.
Yeah.
There's drug deals going on in back alleys. There's people, hiding from the authorities.
Black market.
There's the black market. There's a whole lot that goes on in lore on ArcCorp, because a planet that big, it being, governed by a corporation, your personal safety is not the top priority of ArcCorp. I'm sorry to tell you, but it isn't. So, it's one of those things where, because of how it was written up by the narrative team, there will be a lot of opportunities, I would think, for bounty hunting, in the various areas of ArcCorp in the future.
Yeah. When you go, and you guys have done this before, when you've walked through ArcCorp and you've gone down those wrong alleys, those back alleys, they don't look very friendly. Either they're completely abandoned or there's some creep sitting back there, by himself. And, we're going to see all these other areas, Area 26, Area 7, all these other areas where obviously, just like how like in Pyro right now, CIG has told us about the gangs of Pyro. There are different gangs that are fighting over certain areas. There's no reason why we couldn't see that same type of thing. Maybe there's a certain gang with reputation that's in Area 7, another one that's in 26. And so when you go there, depending on your reputation with, maybe you're in good with Tessius folks, but if you go over to 7, they ain't happy to see you over there.
You know that Tessia, your wife, she's a gang member.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
part of the Otani
Otani
Syndicate.
Syndicate. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And see, again, learning all this lore is going to be important later on, so that when you do want to progress through the game and progress through the world, if you don't know who's at odds with who, or if you don't even know certain things exist, you may find yourself missing out on some really, really great gameplay. So that's why we're always encouraging you guys to absorb the lore. We know it's a lot of it out there, but take it in, because it's going to continue to expand and get bigger and bigger as the game progresses. Okay. All right. Last one for you, Jade. This is from Kavion. Jade, can we have a water planet that's next to a black hole with huge tidal waves like in Interstellar? Is that a realistic thing? Could that happen?
Yes, in fact, there actually is a system that is in the game lore and on the Arc star map called Tamsa, and it is a black hole, and it has 2 planets which orbit it. Now, they haven't said much about these planets, so like, it's possible they will draw from Interstellar. I don't see why not, because we know one thing CIG loves to do, and that is they like to write what they call love letters to these different sci-fi franchises, and that movie was huge. So if you're going to have a system that's a black hole in the Star Citizen universe, I think they might want to, just like with ArcCorp and Coruscant, I do hope that they would draw from that for one of these planets.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, anybody who's seen Interstellar remembers that scene, and at the same time kind of like wishes that it's in Star Citizen. As frightening as it was, that idea of knowing, and you mentioned this earlier, there may be those safe periods and safe times in orbit where it's okay to be there, but you better be paying attention, because if not a good thing.
The only thing that'll be, sort of for some people that love that movie, and I'm one of those people, kind of immersion breaking, is that when you leave that system, all your friends aren't dead.
This is true.
Just saying, relativity is a thing. So
this is very, very true. Very true. Okay, gang, we have reached it. We're right at the top of the hour. We're right on time, and we hope you guys have enjoyed what we have shared with you today in relation to ArcCorp. This is a part of, once again, our series on the system tour. Next month, we will be going to visit all of you Apple lovers over at Microtech. That'll be our that we'll be doing next month, and hopefully we'll have some great conversations about that as well. Let's talk about what we got coming up, Jade, the next week or so. Why don't you cover those 2, and I'll cover the last one.
Yep. So we have coming up on Thursday, Soul Talk, which is where you in the community come into our Discord and we have a conversation about the game and what went on over the last week. And we also watch a Star Citizen Machinima together usually. And that is Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And then Saturday is Soul Voices, and that's part of Pod Saturday, right? Got that right with with Astropub and Relay Station, and that is Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and that is where it's a one-on-one with Griff, and sometimes you have other people who come in, like 30K, and they play a hater.
30K.
Yeah.
No, it's I was about to call him Special K. That's not it either. What is his name? What is Colossal's name? It's Idris K. Idris K. Idris K. Yeah.
Okay.
You see, I was gonna call him Special K. I was gonna call him Serial. You're okay. You did better than me.
Okay.
But we give them the 30K when they come, right? That's the thing, right?
That's the thing. Yeah, you get the 30K if you're on there.
Yep. So that's on Saturdays, and then next Sunday we are going to be doing a show called The Future of AI. We've had a lot of conversation, Jade. People quite often will say things like, "Oh, I can't wait to get my Idris so I can fill it up with AI blades and fly the galaxy."
Fast cart. Except it's a bounty merchantman, but yeah.
Yeah, except for it's a bounty merchantman. We are going to talk about that subject. It sounds like a great idea, but we're going to talk about, is it a realistic idea? We're going to talk about it from the aspect of lore, information that CIG has shared with us about the game, NPCs. We're going to talk about everything. By the way, if you ever go visit the bargain basement of the, what's the name of the store, the Apple store?
Oh, you're talking about the Microtex factory line.
Yeah, factory line.
Factory
There's
line.
a lot of technology down there that we're going to be talking about next week. Everything from cartography to the AI blades, all types of stuff is down there. We're going to be covering everything from the sensors that go in your eye, your monocle. We're going to be talking about all this stuff that's tied into tech. The sim pods. Yes. So that's going to be next week. So you guys, if you want to tune in and learn more about that, these things that will help you with your gameplay, that's going to be our subject for next week. And hopefully you guys can join us for that. I'm starting to lose my voice, so forgive me. Okay, we are getting ready to set up for a raid. And it looks like we are going to be raiding Corbin SC, because I don't see anybody else punched in unless I missed it. So we're going to send you guys over to Corbin SC. When you get over there with Corbin, let them know that you came over from the Soul Citizens. I want to give a special thank you to Jade. Jade, thank you so much for sharing all of your great wisdom and knowledge.
If you liked what I did and with my avatar.
We hope you like.
Game.
Jade gave us a nice animated avatar. We've moved from the static one to something that is much more animated. Very cool. I really dig it. So yeah, put a 1 in there if you like what she did. We may do some more stuff with that. I might ask her to do. I might ask you to bring Tessia alive for me one day too. I almost asked you to do it for this show.
I could do that.
I almost did it. You know, she's in Star Wars. In the actress, she's in the last show that they did. And I was gonna steal an audio clip from that and ask you to match it up, but we'll talk about that later.
You know what?
We'll talk about that later. Okay?
Yeah, we'll get that's the after show.
Yes. She's on in Andor. All right. Anyway, we're gonna run, guys. Thank you all so much as always. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
And we'll
I really appreciate it.
Yep. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, peace, love, and soul. Be safe. Ciao.